My father held the silk-wrapped bundle, about to give Pei Zhao the travel expenses for his imperial examination journey. The once naive and simple youth suddenly became unattainably lofty. Suddenly, a barrage of bullet comments appeared before my eyes. The male lead has been reborn, returning to that fateful wrong beginning. In this lifetime, he could finally make up for the regret of missing the female lead. If it weren't for the female supporting character's family using their filthy money to deceive the male lead in their past lives, how could the male and female leads have missed each other and lived with lifelong regrets? I suddenly turned to look at Pei Zhao, meeting his abruptly darkened expression, with reddened eyes. He gazed at Ji Yunbai as if beholding a long-lost treasure. Looks like the Barrage comments were right. Pei Zhao is the male lead, and has been reborn. Reborn back when he was still a poor scholar struggling to make ends meet. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. My attention remained fixed on Pei Zhao, and I clearly noticed the change in the aura surrounding him. It was the nobility of someone who had lived in privilege for years. Certainly not the demeanor of a poor scholar from some remote backwater. He cast a disgusted glance at the silk-wrapped bundle in my father's hands, his voice dripping with the disdain of one accustomed to high status. I may be but a humble scholar of little talent, yet I understand the principle of refusing food given with contempt, Master Shen. I must ask you not to insult me with such filthy lucre. With that, he stepped around my family's carriage and took hold of Ji Yunbai, whose face was streaked with tears, gently stroking her hand. He spoke each word with solemn gravity. Ah Yun, you are my betrothed. I, Pei Zhao, will never fail you again in this lifetime. A commotion erupted around them. Suddenly, the barrage of comments on the screen grew excited. Amazing, it's the straightforward male lead. We're saved, in this lifetime. The male and female leads will never miss each other again. The villainous supporting female character's family can finally get lost. In the previous life, they used temporary wealth to deceive the male lead. To ease the burden on his sick mother, he agreed to break off the engagement with the female lead and married a malicious young lady. Now that I've been reborn, will I let you fool me again? Exactly, the male lead was always a potential winner. The female lead waited for him all these years, only for the villainess's family to swoop in and steal the prize. After pondering for a while, I finally pieced together the truth from the chaotic barrage of comments. I am the villainous supporting female character mentioned in the comments. My father used money to entice Pei Zhao into marrying me, but the Pei Zhao before me now has been reborn into this life. In our previous life, when my father and I came to visit our ancestral home, he took a liking to Pei Zhao at first sight. Learning that his family was poor and he'd only managed to become a scholar through his widowed mother's support, she proposed that if he would marry me, the Shen family would spare no effort to support him in his imperial examinations. Pei Zhao looked at his ailing mother and, after a brief struggle, accepted the travel expenses his father offered and agreed. He even broke off his childhood engagement, but he never forgot Ji Yunbai. And he believed it was my family that tore him apart from Ji Yunbai, disliking my spoiled and domineering nature, extremely proud, yet aloof, but having grown accustomed to the pampered life of a son-in-law in the Shen family, how could he be willing to return to that destitute Pei household? It wasn't until he reached the highest rank that he sought to win Ji Yunbai back, only to learn that Ji Yunbai had married someone else, and her husband treated her poorly, leading to her death in childbirth. It was then that he realized the only one he had ever loved was Ji Yunbai. The overwhelming regret made him grow increasingly cold-hearted, numbing himself with endless work until he collapsed and died from exhaustion. Reborn into this life, his first instinct was to reject my father's demand, publicly declaring his love for Ji Yunbai and vowing to spend the rest of his life with her. To make up for the regrets of his past life, I frowned. What the barrage comments said could indeed happen. It's just too one-sided. If it were as they said, that Pei Zhao agreed to my father's demands and received the Shen family's support, then shouldn't marrying me be the natural consequence? Even if it meant separating him and Ji Yunbai, that was his own choice. The Shen family never forced him. What's more, my father had already asked him, and it was only after he said there was no betrothal that such a request was made. Why must he act as if the Shen family owes him something? I noticed a hint of displeasure flash across my father's face. I curtsied slightly, took my father's arm, and handed the silk bundle to the examinee standing beside Pei Zhao. In that case, I wish young Master Pei and Miss Ji eternal happiness. Then, turning to her father, she said, actually, your daughter admires this young master even more. What's going on? Did I miss something? Why is this different from my past life? Why did the supporting female character give her travel money to someone else? Is this playing hard to get? Everyone knows the female lead fell in love with the male lead at first sight and begged her father to find him. After marriage, she was even more devoted to him. But of course, the male lead won't fall for it. No matter how many tricks the female lead tries, it's all in vain. Pei Zhao's expression stiffened, his aloof demeanor turned somewhat incredulous. But the excitement of regaining what was lost kept him from noticing the differences between this life and the last. After a brief moment of daze, he took Ji Yunbai's hand again and pulled her tightly into his embrace. Hearing my words, father's displeasure faded slightly, his slightly plump face filled with love and doting. Ha ha ha, you. Then he cupped his hands toward the examinee and said, young nephew, why not come to my home for a chat? I, Shen, have already prepared wine and dishes. We warmly invited the examinee onto the carriage. He would be leaving the Hui territory in just a few days, and truth be told, he wasn't very familiar with the people here. As for Pei Zhao, it was only because he noticed the young man's impoverished background yet excellent scholarship, humble and courteous manners, coupled with extraordinary good looks, that he had this idea in mind, thinking it would help him focus on his studies, ease his mother's burden, and secure a perfect husband for myself. With the Shun family's support and Pei Zhao's diligence, his future was bound to be bright. Perhaps, just as the Barrage comments had said, I fell in love with Pei Zhao at first sight. And after marriage, I became utterly devoted, but in this lifetime, I only entertained some thoughts, not yet so deeply invested. The love had barely begun when it was already extinguished. The Shun family were renowned wealthy merchants in Jiangju. I had been pampered since childhood and had never suffered any grievances. As the only daughter of the Shun family, was there any worry about finding a suitable husband? This fellow examinee from Pei Zhao's hometown looks quite handsome as well. The carriage traveled along, but the weather took a turn for the worse. The rain was pouring heavily, so we had no choice but to find an inn along the way to stay. Looking at the waiter, I said generously, get me 3 of your finest rooms and serve a table of your most expensive signature dishes. The waiter beamed with delight and greeted them warmly. Just as they were enjoying their meal, 2 people suddenly entered the inn. I turned my head to look. It was Pei Zhao. He held his fiancée who had been lost and found again. Seeing me look at him, a trace of impatience and annoyance flashed in his eyes, as if afraid I would continue to pester him. With a cold snort, he sat down and called the waiter to order. Ji Yunbai was startled when she saw the prices on the menu. It's too expensive, brother Pei. Let's go somewhere else. Pei Zhao stood straight as a ramrod, waving his hand to order 5 or 6 dishes, then said with a pained expression, Ayun. These dishes are nothing. Please make do for now. Once I pass the imperial exams, I'll take you to the most expensive Tianzi Hao in the capital. Only their dishes would be worthy of you. I will surely petition for you to receive the title of a noble lady, and you shall become the most esteemed mistress of the Pei family. Ji Yunbai's face was filled with happiness, as if she could already see the blissful life that awaited her. She cast a slightly smug glance in my direction. Brother Pei. That's a noble title. No amount of money could buy such an honor, could it? I'm so happy. This is the farewell gift I prepared for you, hoping it would remind you of me when you see it. But now, I'm accompanying you to the provincial examination myself. Her face was radiant with a triumphant smile. Comments in the bullet chat said that Ji Yunbai was originally Pei Zhao's childhood betrothed. With a gambling-addicted father and a stepmother at home, her situation was even worse than Pei Zhao's. When Pei Zhao broke off their engagement, she glared at me with hatred, demanding why I had stolen her love and cursing me to die a miserable death. But when my father asked about the engagement, Pei Zhao outright denied this childhood betrothal, saying it was just a playful remark made by parents when they were young. Ji Yunbai carefully took out a cloth-wrapped bundle. Pei Zhao's eyes were filled with adoration and pleasant surprise. The barrage of comments scrolled wildly. I can't take it anymore. This is too sweet. The male and female leads missed out on so much in their past lives. The male lead's gaze is so affectionate, looking at the female lead with such tenderness. Am I the only one curious about what the female lead is giving him? Pei Zhao carefully cradled the cloth-wrapped bundle in his hands with great reverence. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation. A piece of malt candy lay quietly in her palm. Ji Yunbai smiled shyly. Brother Pei, this is your favorite malt candy. This was made by my own hands, filled with all my feelings for you. Try it quickly. I remember the female supporting character's first gift to the male lead was a set of top-tier ink brushes and paper. The female lead definitely doesn't have as much money as the supporting character now. But her sincerity is something the supporting character can't buy with money, right? The female lead made this with her own hands, even she couldn't bear to eat it herself. Pei Zhao's expression stiffened slightly, a glint of amusement flashed through my eyes. Perhaps the old Pei Zhao before his rebirth would have truly cherished this gift. After all, it was candy that Ji Yunbai couldn't bear to eat herself, yet she insisted on giving it to him. But now, beneath those tattered clothes, he was clearly no longer that impoverished scholar. Instead, he had become a high-ranking official accustomed to luxury, who regularly dined at the most expensive restaurants in the capital and was familiar with all things refined and opulent. Even before he died from overwork, he had been using the exquisite brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones I painstakingly collected for him, each piece worth a fortune. This maltose candy no longer suited his palate. I smiled faintly and brought out the set of brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. This was originally purchased as a gift for Pei Zhao. But since I was considering this person before me as my potential fiancé, I couldn't be stingy either. I pushed the exquisite wooden box toward him. Young master, this is our first meal together. A small token of my regard, please accept it. The barrage of comments erupted again. What's going on? This gift was clearly meant for the male lead, TCH. It must be that female supporting character's trick again, just trying to make the male lead regret it. But this was personally made by Master Wang. The male lead used it during exams in his past life and always loved it. So what? The female lead is just jealous, playing hard to get by deliberately giving it to someone else. She'll still be fawning over the male lead later, offering it to him. The rosewood box was carved with intricate patterns, and the scholar's treasures inside exuded the elegance of a master's touch, extraordinary at first glance. Jiyu Wuqi was still in shock. The Shun family's invitation alone had been surprising enough. He never expected to receive such an extravagant gift upon their first meeting. Just as he was about to pick it up to admire it, Pei Zhao abruptly stood up and shouted angrily, "Don't touch it, this is for..." The words hung unfinished as he suddenly realized something and swallowed them back. I could see it. What he meant to say was, "This is for him," as mentioned in the bullet comments. This set of the 4 treasures of the study was personally crafted by his favorite calligrapher, Master Wang. He even used this set for exams, treasuring it dearly and taking time to admire it every day. But now that he's reunited with his long-lost fiancée, these things must seem utterly insignificant to him. Ji Yunbai frowned slightly, casting a disdainful glance at them. The rich are so perfunctory. It's just a set of stationery, something we could buy in our town. How could it compare to my handmade malt candy? Brother Pei, quick, try it, is it good? Only then did Pei Zhao snap out of his thoughts, forcing a stiff expression. I can't bear to eat it, you should have it instead. Ji Yunbai smiled sweetly and brought the malt candy to his lips. Brother Pei, you're so kind, but since I made this myself, you must try it. Pei Zhao froze for a moment before swallowing the candy. A cloyingly sweet taste with a hint of bitterness spread through his mouth. It wasn't good at all, but seeing Ji Yunbai's face full of anticipation, he forced a smile and said it was delicious. Just then, a country fellow suddenly rushed in through the door, his face etched with anxiety, hurrying straight toward Pei Zhao. Pei Zhao, so you're here. Come with me quickly, your ancestral land and house are about to be seized. Pei Zhao's expression changed abruptly. The barrage comments started scrolling again. Oh no, how could I forget? In the previous life, the male lead's mother mortgaged the family's ancestral land and house to raise travel money for him. That wouldn't be so bad. But the real problem was that the loan shark was utterly unscrupulous, taking advantage of the male lead's illiterate mother by turning it into exorbitant usury. In the previous life, when the male lead accepted the female lead, she directly repaid the loan for him, so that bully didn't come to cause trouble anymore. Oh no, this is bad. Just when the main couple had a sweet moment, it's about to get angsty again. I can't believe this. That supporting female character is totally going to take advantage of this situation, isn't she? She'll definitely use this to blackmail the male lead into being with her. When my father was inquiring about Pei Zhao's situation, he told me that Pei's father passed away early, and his mother single-handedly raised him, which took a toll on her health, leaving her unable to do heavy labor. To support Pei Zhao's education, the family was practically destitute. Where would I get the money for travel expenses? Moreover, studying is the most expensive endeavor. Even ordinary families struggle to afford it. Thinking this, I glanced at Jiyu Wuqi. Your family doesn't have any financial difficulties, does it? Thank you for your concern, miss. Everything is fine at home. Pei Zhao shot me a dark look and was about to leave when the waiter stopped him. Sir, you haven't paid yet. The surrounding crowd stared at him with strange looks. In his previous life as the son-in-law of the Shen family, wherever he went, it was always him who paid the bill. He had long grown accustomed to it. Having just been reborn, he clearly hadn't snapped out of it yet. "Sir, your wine comes to a total of 18 taels. Such a paltry sum wouldn't have even covered a cup of tea in his past life." Pei Zhao instinctively reached for his bundle, yet when he saw his coarse cloth bundle, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He had forgotten. He had been reborn. He was no longer that privileged and powerful Minister Pei. He was just a poor scholar now. At present, he hadn't accepted the Shen family's travel money. 18 taels of silver seemed like an astronomical figure to him, utterly unattainable. The shop assistant's expression grew increasingly unpleasant. Pei Zhao glanced at Ji Yunbai with difficulty, gritted his teeth, and said, "Ah Yun, didn't you say you pawned the dowry your mother left you? Could you cover this meal first? I'll pay you back once I earn some money." Ji Yunbai's eyes welled up with tears. On the verge of crying, "Brother Pei, this money is my dowry savings, meant to be my last resort. If I give it to you, what will I do? Don't worry. I'll find a way to pay you back very soon. It's not that I don't trust you, but what method could you possibly have to earn money? If I give this to you, we'll truly be penniless." Ji Yunbai clutched her bundle tightly, unwilling to hand over the money. This young, newly engaged couple who had only recently tasted sweetness together, finally faced the greatest trial between them. I set down my wine cup and called for the waiter. "Check, please." Pei Zhao abruptly turned his head away. "No need." As if he thought I was about to pay for him, and then proceed to coerce or pester him relentlessly. Having been reborn into this life, he was no longer willing to have any connection with my Shen family. "Just want to make up for the regrets of my past life." The tone was full of disgust. "Shen Shi, what I, Pei Zhao, despise most is your Shen family's habit of insulting people with money. No matter how rich you are, I will never spare you a glance in this lifetime. Please don't think about ruining the relationship between me and Yun." I raised an eyebrow, astonished by Pei Zhao's shamelessness. Although my father had proposed the marriage alliance to him, I had never once expressed any admiration for him. In fact, after seeing the Barrage comments, I deliberately chose someone else right in front of him, and this was after he publicly announced Ji Yunbai as his fiancée. I haven't exchanged a single word with him yet, let alone gotten entangled. It's him who detests me, yet the one who can't adapt from being the esteemed son-in-law of the Shen family to a penniless nobody is also him. I sneered. "You seem to have misunderstood something. I'm just paying for our table. Are you out of your mind? Thinking you're some hot commodity that everyone wants to throw money at to insult you?" Pei Zhao's face stiffened. Only then did he realize I wasn't the Shen Shi from his past life who'd been hopelessly devoted to him in this life. He had publicly declared his intention to marry Ji Yunbai. Realizing this, his face grew even paler. The barrage of comments exploded. "What's going on? Shouldn't the supporting female character be rushing to pay for the male lead? Why didn't the female supporting character's family help the male lead pay off the loan sharks earlier?" Exactly. Besides the Shen family, who else could deal with those villains, probably trying to show off and control the male lead, even after his rebirth? He's still so oppressed, humiliated by the female supporting character with money in his past life, and now being controlled again. My heart aches for the male lead. Reading these bullet comments, I couldn't help but sneer coldly. Who gave them the nerve to think I'd help Pei Zhao repay his debts? The Shen family's full support in their previous life was seen by them as nothing but humiliation. Pei Zhao enjoyed all the benefits of being the Shen family's son-in-law while putting on an air of disgust. Who forced him to agree to it? What a textbook case of a social climbing man. In their past life, after Pei Zhao passed the imperial exams, he didn't immediately receive an official post. It was only through the Shen family's money greasing the wheels that he managed to secure an important position. But when he gained power, not only did he show no gratitude, but he also schemed against the Shen family alongside Lady Pei Zhao. It's only natural for a man to have multiple wives and concubines. Besides, how could a merchant's daughter, who can't even bear a son, be worthy of being your principal wife? That daughter of Minister Chu has taken a liking to you. Find a way to deal with her. With Minister Chu's support, you'll have no shortage of prospects. Pei Zhao naturally nodded in agreement. Fortunately, I wasn't completely unprepared either. I had planted my own people by Pei Zhao's side. Before he could scheme against me by marrying the daughter of Minister Chu, I outmaneuvered Pei Zhao first and ruined his plan to form an alliance with the Chu family through marriage. What's more, I firmly grasped Pei Zhao's weaknesses, keeping him firmly in my control, ensuring I remained the sole mistress of the household. Did the Shun family really think they were running a charity, while helping him climb the ranks? They had already secured leverage. I wasn't the least bit afraid he'd dare to kick the Shun family aside once he was on board. Even if he rose to the highest rank later, he'd still be powerless against me, seething with hatred but unable to do a thing. Ji Wuqi couldn't resist sneering. Pei Zhao, are you suffering from delusions? When has Miss Shun ever insulted you with money, as far as I recall? She's never even spoken a word to you, yet here you are, putting on this act of being harassed. Utterly ridiculous. Ji Wuqi, you're nothing but a low-life thug. Who gave you the nerve to speak to me like this? Do you have any idea who I am? Pei Zhao's face darkened. An inexplicable air of authority emanated from him. In his previous life, he rose from being the son-in-law of the Shun family to a first-rank official, and years of privilege had accustomed him to giving orders. He had also grown used to being flattered, but he seemed to have forgotten that now he was just a poor scholar, and such an imposing demeanor seemed utterly out of place on him. I chuckled softly. Lord Pei makes a valid point. Ji Wuqi looked at me with a pitiful expression. Though he was a scholar, he bore none of the frail delicacy typical of scholars, a coarse cloth short jacket, paired with those solid, well-defined muscles all over his body, casually raising an eyebrow with careless ease. He really did look like a local ruffian. I frowned. Once we returned to the Shun residence, I'd have to properly discipline him. If he were to become the Shun family's son-in-law, he must carry himself with elegance and grace. Upon returning to the Shun residence, I immediately had the maidservants give Ji Wuqi a complete makeover from head to toe. The moon-white brocade robe, fastened with a jade-green belt, made him look considerably more presentable. He took him to the Jiangju Tianzi Hao restaurant again. Ji Wuqi stared at the exquisite dishes before him, still unable to snap out of his shock. I poured a cup of Yuhuchun wine. As my husband Shunshi, you naturally get to enjoy the finest food and clothing. In my past life, all this was given to Pei Zhao, yet he showed no gratitude. The Barrage comments started getting anxious. It seemed things weren't going smoothly for Pei Zhao. What should I do? My heart aches for the male lead. After finally reconciling with the female lead, he still has to worry about these mundane matters. I just want to see sweet romance. The male lead's family is such a burden. His mother borrowed loan shark money and can't repay it, so he has to find ways to earn money, so stressed that he's even developed mouth ulcers. No, if this goes on, the male lead won't make it to the provincial exams, since in our past life he despised me so much for insulting him with money. Then this life will never come again. He yearns to make up for the regrets of his past life. Then may he and his true love withstand the trials of life. Savoring fine wine, I quietly enjoyed the barrage of comments. Male lead, go back right now, never bow your head to that supporting female character. The female lead will be heartbroken and never forgive you. Damn it, is it really this hard to get some sweet romance? The male lead is being forced to return to the young mistress again. This is so frustrating. Author, are you the supporting female character's birth mother? Why must you torture our male lead like this? I raised an eyebrow. Pei Zhao actually came looking for me. This was truly interesting. Sure enough, Pei Zhao's stubborn face appeared at the private room's entrance. He seemed to be enduring immense humiliation and embarrassment, his expression revealing a resigned look. Shunshi, you've won. Are you doing all this just to make me bow my head to you? Now I'm here. He gave a desolate smile, as if having made an extremely difficult decision. As long as you promise to let Ayun be your equal wife, with the same status as you, I'll agree to marry into the Shun family for you. The audacity of this man. I've seen beggars before, but I've never seen someone so shameless. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Lord Pei, it seems you've come to the wrong place. Pei Zhao snorted in disdain. Shunshi, don't bother acting in front of me. What I hate most is playing hard to get. Isn't this just your way of trying to get my attention? Enough, hurry up and come back with me. Help me repay the loan, and I'll forgive you. His tone was full of utter self-assurance. He was convinced I'd already been devoted to him heart and soul. Since he'd been reborn and still deigned to grace me with his favor, I ought to have groveled at his feet. In his previous life, once he gained power, his sole focus had been on finding Ji Yunbai again. He ignored me completely, yet I stubbornly clung to him, refusing to let go. If it weren't for deep love, how could one persist for so long? As the beloved, he naturally took it for granted. He urgently needed money, so of course I should offer it with both hands. Ji Wuqi let out a mocking laugh, tearing through Pei Zhao's aloof facade. Pei Zhao, Miss Shun and I are already discussing marriage arrangements. Please don't disturb us anymore. The words struck like a thunderbolt. Pei Zhao stiffened, standing frozen for a long moment before remembering. I did say at the time that I preferred Ji Wuchi, but he thought it was just my way of playing hard to get. After all, in my past life, I had clung to him for so long, deeply infatuated. Even when he was deeply in love with Ji Yunbai in his heart, I still refused to let go. He couldn't believe I would so easily choose someone else. He shook his head self-deprecatingly. Indeed, after being entangled for so long in our past lives, how could I possibly let go so easily? At this thought, his voice was laced with unconcealed weariness. All right, Shun Shi, I surrender. I apologize to you. Please come back with me quickly. Those people said if I don't repay the money soon, they'll take my mother away to entertain clients. I know you're angry with me for publicly declaring Ayun as my fiancé. Don't worry. From now on you two will absolutely be equals. Seeing Pei Zhao lower his head and yield, the Barrage comments instantly grew anxious. Who wants to be equal with this vicious woman? My heart aches for the female lead. The male lead is about to break the female lead's heart again. How could she bear to witness you marrying another woman? Even as an equal, the male lead is getting entangled with the supporting female character again. This infuriates me. But the male lead has no choice. Without the Shen family's support, both leads will surely suffer hardships later. His political career depends entirely on the Shen family's connections. I looked at Pei Zhao. I've seen beggars before, but never one so shamelessly entitled. If you're broke, figure it out yourself. If all else fails, with your looks. Young Master Pei could become a top-tier courtesan. Pei Zhao's face turned ashen, rendered speechless by my words. He ground his teeth and spat. Shun Shi, do you know why I can't stand you? Because you're always like this, looking down on everyone, trampling over people's dignity without a second thought. No matter how rich you are, you can't win my heart. I'm going to punish you by making you miss me for a while. I hope you won't regret it later. With that, she turned to leave. Wait. He paused and turned back. His eyes sparkled with a joy he himself hadn't noticed, gave me a knowing glance, as if to say, see, I knew you couldn't keep up the act. Could you please punish me by making sure I never see you again? What I mean is, stop bothering me. Seemingly wounded in his pride by my words, Pei Zhao never appeared before me again. I breathed a sigh of relief. Jiangju Prefecture was 1,000 miles away from the ancestral lands, without deliberate effort. It would be difficult to meet again. After Pei Zhao disappeared, I actually spent more time with Ji Wuchi. I arranged for him to stay in a separate courtyard to focus on his exam preparations. From time to time, he'd go out for drinks and visit pleasure boats. Life was quite comfortable. Bullet comments would occasionally pop up reporting Pei Zhao's recent situation. For instance, how he couldn't borrow money to repay his loan shark debts. His mother was taken to a brothel to receive clients. Though she was getting on in years, her natural beauty remained. With some makeup to accentuate her frail appearance, she still attracted many admirers. Though Pei Zhao felt distressed, there was nothing he could do. He still needed to focus on preparing for the exams. Because treating Ji Yunbai to a meal last time had exhausted all his silver, now he had to rely on Ji Yunbai's support for both meals and travel expenses, no matter how strong the affection. It couldn't withstand the grind of daily life, and the two frequently quarreled. Pei Zhao could no longer endure it and began a life of manual labor by day and exam preparation by night. By the time I saw him again, several months had already passed. I accompanied Ji Wuchi to Jiangju Prefecture for the provincial examinations. Pei Zhao also stood outside the examination hall to bid farewell to Ji Yunbai. After a long absence, his demeanor had undergone a significant transformation. When he first reincarnated, he carried an air of noble arrogance and the haughtiness of one long accustomed to high status. But now, he looked every bit the part of a simple farmer. His face was dark and weather-beaten, covered in dust, filled with exhaustion and irritation. The refined air of a scholar was gone from his brow, replaced by an unnatural frown. Ji Yunbai held out a cloth bag, presenting it to Pei Zhao's palm as if seeking praise. Brother Pei, I specially made these cornmeal buns for you. You've worked hard these past few days for the exams. I'll be waiting for you. Pei Zhao looked at the rock-hard cornbread, his face showing disappointment. The female lead is really something. It's exam time, and she's giving the male lead such unnutritious food. She didn't even prepare a water pouch. Does she want the male lead to choke to death? How can the male lead even eat this? During previous exams, the supporting female character would always prepare soft pastries for him, personally escort him to the exam hall by carriage, and make sure everything was perfectly arranged so he wouldn't have to worry about a thing. But can't the male lead endure even this little hardship to break free from the female supporting character's entanglement and reconcile with the female lead in this life? Without the female supporting character, This was exactly the kind of life the male lead should have been living all along. As these words were spoken, the Barrage comments froze momentarily. In his previous life, after Pei Zhao became the Shun family's son-in-law, everything was prepared and taken care of for him before the natural exam. After a moment of hesitation, Pei Zhao still took the cloth bag. After all, he was about to enter the examination hall, and having something to eat was better than nothing. The exam would last for 3 days, and it was impossible to endure without eating. I handed the wooden box to Jiyu Wuqi. Inside were the exam supplies and food I had prepared. Pei Zhao suddenly looked over, staring intently at the wooden box in my hand. I knew what he was thinking. This wooden box was originally meant for him. Pei Zhao irritably averted his gaze as he noticed my eyes sweeping toward him. Instantly, he straightened his back, a knowing smile curled at the corners of his mouth. There was an extra glimmer of expectation in the way they looked at me. Frowning, I glanced at the shabby examination hall and said to Jiyu Wuqi, "The conditions here are terrible. After the exam, I'll treat you to a hot spring at Jade Mountain." Jiyu Wuqi smiled faintly. I nodded as well and returned to the carriage. The certainty on Pei Zhao's face vanished in an instant as he stepped forward to block the carriage. "Shunxi, you're deliberately trying to provoke me. You're still angry with me." Through the carriage curtain, I cast a disdainful glance at him. "Pei Zhao, can you stop being so narcissistic? Why don't you take a look in the mirror and see if you're even worthy of me now? Please step aside." Noticing the astonished gazes of those around him, Pei Zhao's face turned from pale to green, then from green to red. "Very well, Shunxi, you've completely angered me now. I hope you won't come crying and begging me later." With a tense expression, he walked into the examination hall without saying a word, completely unaware that Ji Yunbai was grinding her teeth in frustration behind him. The Barrage comments were also stunned. What's going on? The female supporting character really doesn't feel sorry for the male lead anymore. How can the female supporting character bear to embarrass the male lead like this? The male lead's rebirth was all for nothing. I just wanted to see the sweet romance between the male and female leads. Then watch them reach the pinnacle of life and utterly humiliate the female supporting character. Why does it feel like the male lead is the one constantly getting slapped in the face? The female lead looks so heartbroken. Why isn't the male lead comforting her? Why does it feel like the supporting female character doesn't care about the male lead at all anymore, while the male lead seems unable to let go? I thought to myself, I am the only daughter of the Shun family, raised like a precious jewel in the palm of someone's hand. How could she possibly cling desperately to a man who didn't love her? Since Pei Zhao felt that missing Ji Yunbai in his past life was a regret, then in this lifetime, let them achieve perfect happiness. Finally, the day of the results arrived. I sat with Jiyu Wuqi in the tavern, waiting for news. Pei Zhao led Ji Yunbai, her hair now styled in a married woman's fashion, toward us. It seemed the two had already wed. This time, his face was brimming with absolute confidence, gazing tenderly at Ji Yunbai. "Yun, once I pass the provincial examination as the top scholar, I'll never let you suffer again." Having been reborn, he had already taken the imperial examinations once before. With lingering memories of the exam questions and a lifetime's experience as an official, he was absolutely determined to succeed this time. He cast another disdainful glance at Jiyu Wuqi sitting across from me. In the previous life, he didn't even remember this person. Jiyu Wuqi had never passed the exams to begin with. At this thought, he snorted arrogantly in my direction. Only then did the barrage of comments erupt with excitement. "I told you so. This is the male lead's rebirth arc." All the earlier frustrations were building up to this satisfying face-slapping moment. Now we're getting to the real plot. The glorious highlight has finally arrived. I declare I can barely wait. That supporting female character infuriated me earlier. I hope the male lead utterly abandons her later. Am I the only one craving sweet romance? The leads are finally together. In his past life, the male lead always regretted having no children. It must have been bedroom incompatibility with that supporting character. Now with the female lead, they'll surely be harmonious. Ji Yunbai's expression was one of shyness and sweetness. "No matter the outcome, as long as I'm with you, brother Pei, I don't care how hard life gets." Pei Zhao's eyes were filled with emotion. "That won't happen. I'll make sure you become a titled noblewoman, and I'll cherish only you. Even if some people were to kneel and beg me, I wouldn't spare them another glance," he said meaningfully, giving me a pointed look. Soon, the government officials came up with gongs and drums. At the sight of Jiyu Wuqi, their eyes lit up. "Scholar Jiyu, congratulations, you ranked third in this provincial examination. This is impossible." Pei Zhaoting sprang to his feet and shouted. The official said, "How could it be impossible? We've come personally to bring Magistrate Gu the good news. Pei Zhao stiffened slightly and let out an unnatural snort. He said disdainfully, "It's nothing special, just third place. What's there to be so proud about?" The official gave a contemptuous smile. "Where did this ignorant peasant come from? Get lost, or I'll throw you out. How dare you? Do you know who I am? I'm the top scholar of this year's imperial examinations. Ha 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 ha." The officials burst into laughter. Where did this madman come from, hallucinating like this? "The top scholar is clearly young Master Bai from Jiangju Prefecture," Pei Zhao asked in disbelief. "Then what about me?" "No, what rank did that Pei Zhao achieve?" The man shook his head. "I don't see this person on the list. I'm afraid he didn't make it at all." I was also taken aback. Although Pei Zhao was somewhat arrogant, given his experience of being reborn, how could he not have made the list? Impossible, impossible. There must be some mistake. Pei Zhao rushed out in utter despair. "Brother Pei, wait for me." The barrage of comments scrolled wildly. How is this possible? In the previous life, the male lead clearly ranked 5th in the exams. And this time the top scholar position was practically within his grasp. How could he not be on the list? There must be some mistake. Could it be the female antagonist's doing? In the past life, if she hadn't pulled strings to prevent the male lead's enemies from stealing his exam papers, he wouldn't have passed successfully. I'd almost forgotten. In the previous life, the female antagonist never even told the male lead about this incident. This time, she must have deliberately refused to help. The female antagonist is truly wicked. She's afraid the male lead will succeed and slip from her grasp, resorting to any means to keep him entangled. I rolled my eyes in exasperation. I didn't get reborn in this life. How would I know? Even if I knew, I wouldn't help. What nerve. Lounging on the chaise longue in the side chamber, I cast a sidelong glance at Jiu Wuqi before me. After the imperial examination that day, the top scholar paraded through the streets on horseback, clad in crimson robes, his peach blossom eyes brimming with unrestrained nonchalance. He made all the young maidens and married women of the capital blush uncontrollably. He immediately sent matchmakers to propose marriage. My father naturally agreed with a beaming smile. Without even asking for my opinion, I was furious. But my father just asked in confusion, "Didn't you say yourself that you admired this young man more? What more could you possibly want?" What angered me was that in my father's eyes, all he saw was this son-in-law, completely disregarding the opinion of his own precious daughter. Though I said it casually at the time, but as the barrage of memories flooded back, my disappointment in men only grew deeper. Pei Zhao is the perfect example. I can afford to support a man, but I have no desire to easily become someone else's daughter-in-law. That scoundrel Jiu Wuqi lied to me that day, claiming he was an orphan. This humble scholar has neither father nor mother. It is only by Miss Shen's favor that I've found happiness today. Yet who could have guessed that the one coming to propose marriage was actually the second wife of the Jiangju prefect's household? Turns out this rascal was a wolf in sheep's clothing, swindling meals and drinks all along. Jiu Wuqi straightened my body. I really didn't mean to deceive you. I was actually driven out of the mansion by my father to gain some experience. That place happened to be my wet nurse's hometown, so I stayed there temporarily. Who would have thought I'd actually run into you there? This is truly fate, I said in a sinister tone. So you came to my house to freeload? As the son of a prefect, how could you possibly be short on silver? I was genuinely poor back then. My father kicked me out without giving me a single coin. Originally, I just planned to stay a few days before going back to beg my father. But for you I decided to wash my hands of this life and turn over a new leaf. The title of Zhuang Yuan's wife is the only one worthy of Miss Shen's talent and beauty. With these words, he pulled me into his embrace. I was somewhat moved, and my anger subsided considerably, mainly because the barrage of comments was scrolling too fast, slightly distracting my attention. What's going on with this plot? Why does it feel like the female supporting character doesn't care about the male lead at all in this reincarnated life? I remember in the previous life, there was some prefect's son who fell in love with the female supporting character at first sight and wanted to marry her, but she only had eyes for the male lead and refused. It seems that in this life, the male lead accidentally pushed the female supporting character into someone else's arms. I froze for a moment. Did Jiu Wuqi actually like me in the previous life? What an incredible coincidence. On my way back to the residence, a beggar-like figure stopped me. Pei Zhao stood before the carriage, dressed in rags with disheveled hair and a dirty face. "Shenxi, come out, I have something to tell you." Jiu Wuqi said coldly, "If you have something to say it to me. Please don't disturb me and my fiancé." Pei Zhao stared at me with a livid face. "Are you really going to marry him?" "Not marry him. But marry you instead. I let out a scornful laugh. He closed his eyes briefly, as if steeling his resolve, and finally spoke. Shunshi, I know you're punishing me. You've been reborn too, haven't you? Otherwise, why would you deliberately let my enemies swap out my exam papers? In this reincarnated life, I still lost to you. If you wanted me to bow my head to you, you've won. I agree to be with you. Wait, I interrupted him, if I remember correctly. I told you not to appear before me again. Pei Zhao let out a bitter laugh. Now I finally understand all those things you did for me in my past life that I never knew about. So it was you who helped me deal with my enemies. Though you looked down on everyone else, you truly cared for me. I've come to realize that I actually can't live without you anymore. Please forgive me. Let's get back together. Pei Zhao's eyes were filled with anticipation. I turned away, smiling distantly. It seems we've never truly been together. It was just my father who thought you were decent, so he approached you. What love is there to speak of? Since the Barrage comments say you were reborn just to win back your love, then as you wish. Pei Zhao's eyes were filled with pain. It was my fault. I was the one who destroyed our relationship. It was me who lost you. Do you know, now I'm really not doing well. My enemies are causing trouble for me everywhere. My mother is being tormented by those people, and even our Yoon won't speak to me anymore. In our past life, we were so happy together. How could things have turned out like this? He broke down into uncontrollable sobs. The barrage of comments suddenly stopped. The supporting female character is so clear-headed. I just realized now that the male lead is actually a phoenix man. Now that he's down on his luck, he comes crawling back to her. What happened to the promised alpha male? All I see is a freeloader. This is the life the male lead was originally meant to live. He really had it too good in his past life. The carriage gradually moved away, and Jiyu Wuchi held my hand with grievance. You actually did so much for him. I'm jealous. The kind that can't be easily soothed. I don't care. You must give me an explanation. You provoked me. Yet there's another dog, bullying me because I didn't get to be reborn. Right, stop fooling around. I patted his head. I don't care. Unless you promise to marry me, okay. I chuckled softly as the wind chimes jingled before the carriage. We all have better futures worth striving for. We can't lose courage because of one scoundrel, can we? The end.